This is Michael Williamson, and this is a photo of me when I was thin and cute and had hair. And only 2 out of those 3 exist now. And this is kind of the story before we started working together, a little bit about our growing up and why we became the whacked out freaks that we are.
This is Dale Maharidge. We're going to tell you the people who are bringing you this blog and our book, Someplace Like America. It was how we grew up formed who we are. I was a blue-collar kid in Cleveland. Both sides of my family were working class. My grandfather on my father's side was a railroad man, B&O Railroad, a very hard job, called out on all hours. They grew up, they were on the south side of Cleveland. It was an ethnic Russian immigrant enclave. You know what this neighborhood, if you've seen Michael Cimino's The Deer Hunter, the wedding scene was filmed at the church in this picture, St. Theodosius. My grandfather's cousin was one of the 7 founders of this church. The last Tsar of Russia helped fund it. And so that movie was more documentary than it was feature film. As you can see, the blast furnace was hot. This is where my maternal grandfather worked for a while when this plant was Otis Steel. He labored there. He told stories about cinders going in guys' boots and melting their feet. My father was a tool and cutter grinder. He ground steel cutting tools. He worked all day at Cleveland Twist Drill, and at night he ground steel in our basement, working till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night when he had orders. It was a side job he did. So I grew up breathing steel dust. At age 12, I started working for my father. He eventually built a shop out back. This is me at age 17 in high school. I started college. I had a checkered career. That's French for I was a screw-up. In and out of college, wanted to be a writer, didn't think I could make it, but I just started writing while grinding steel. This is my writing area in my bedroom. I had an old Underwood typewriter. I was writing for the Cleveland Press and Cleveland Plain Dealer. The Plain Dealer I had a lot of stories in. This is one of my last ones I did for the paper. It was on cockfighting in Ohio. Huge underground and illegal rings, these cockfights. I was undercover. One of the guys who fought the Roosters took me under his wing.
Yeah, I don't think Dale mentioned that cockfighting story actually won a award, I think first of many awards, and it was quite a feather in his cap. Well, I shouldn't be beaking for him. I should let him beak for himself. Anyway.
We're birds of a feather. It's okay.
Okay, so I was going to have another joke, but I chickened out. I was a long-distance runner in high school, was All-American for a couple of years, and started off as kind of a hippie kid. I had the tie-dye shirt and the leather vest, which I still have 40 years later. I just gave it to my 12-year-old daughter, who's the same age that I am in that photo. And I was orphaned at a fairly young age, actually about a year before this photo was taken, when I was 11. Lived all over the country. Even when my mom was alive, we moved around a lot. But I ended up with this fairly conservative family who wouldn't let me have my hair long. But they were very supportive, and in high school I became a long-distance runner. I moved out on my 18th birthday. This is my office. This is a really significant picture because there's pictures of my girlfriend there at right, the lovely Miss Diane. There's running medals. There's photos that I took. There's my 1920s Underwood typewriter, because I had been doing some writing in high school and some photography and was doing freelance in Sacramento when I was only 18. And then I met the president-to-be. That's a photo of me with Jimmy Carter the day before the election in November of 1976. And then a few years later, then Governor Brown, who's still Governor Brown, and making about $100 a week, which was not horrible money, except that 80% of my income went towards photography and film and gas. So I was poor, terribly broke.
So by 1980, I started looking to the West. I thought California is where the story is. And as you can see here, I'm calling all these California newspapers, primarily the Sacramento Bee. I wrote to the Bee, and this editor wrote me this very nice letter back, very complimentary, but he said, sorry, kid, basically there's no openings. So I knew I wasn't going to get hired by mail. I figured I have to go out west. So I loaded up my 1978 Datsun truck, drove west, all my belongings, and I lived out of it for 3 months on the sides of roads, in national forest campgrounds, knocking on doors. Ultimately, I did get hired at the Sacramento Bee. The city editor, Bob Forsythe, may he rest in peace, saw something in me And he hired me, and at the astounding rate of $469 a week, as you can see here. That was more money than existed in the entire world as far as I was concerned. I was rich. And I was put on the police beat. I didn't really like police, but I wasn't going to argue. These early photographs were taken by Richard D. Schmidt, a colleague of ours, who documented both of our lives. You're going to see more of his pictures later in this show. So working in the newsroom, it was a big newsroom. There were several hundred reporters, photographers, and other staff. I did not know Michael Williamson up to this point. We're into December. I've been there about a month. And the city editor barked, "Maharidge, meet the photographer in the photo lot. There's a Christmas tree bursting into flame in a trailer over in West Sacramento." So I race out of the front of the Sacramento Bee newsroom, and I hear footsteps coming up behind me. And this guy comes up to me with a beard on my left. And he says, "You a runner too?" And I knew what he meant. There's two kinds of reporters, journalists. There's walkers and runners. And this guy passed me. So, of course, I ran faster, and Michael was a track star in high school, so I didn't quite catch up to him. That's how it began. We went to the trailer fire. It wasn't much of a story. We ended up going to the Wendy's by the Western Pacific Rail Yard in Sacramento for a hamburger before we went back to the newsroom. And we saw these hobos behind the fence just sitting there waiting to catch out. And it prompted Michael to say, "I've been working on this photo essay on winos, but I have nobody to write it." So we sat down, and I learned his story, or he learned my story, and it's going to sound corny as hell, but we basically made a pact to cover the uncovered that day. We're straight guys, but it was like we were on a date. We wanted to cover the same kinds of things. I signed on for the Wino Project, which of course is not PC these days. We call them inebriated transients today. They're just sad, poor guys that we both cared a lot about. And we spent a lot of time on this story, and it ran in early January 1981. It's our first project together. As you can see, they gave us a lot of space, and it was really cool. I got to write a lot of words because there were really cool photos. Michael got to run his really cool photos because there were these words. And so the team was formed. We did not know then that in a couple of years it was going to expand and take us places we never could have dreamed of.
So we worked on the Wino story together, and I was newly married. That's actually me and my wife on the slab of a house we were having built. So it was a crazy time. I just found my sea legs. I found Dale. I met Brenda.
As you can see, I'm young. I'm 24. Michael's just 23. I look like I'm about 18. I was single. I didn't have a life. I was not married. All I had was the work. But we were off. We were off and running. And we didn't know where it was going to take us, but we knew we wanted to work together and cover some really great stories. And as I say, boy, it took us places we never imagined. You'll see that in the coming shows.